he's gone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to She Knows Arsenal. This is a live show. You obviously know that because it's live. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'm a little flustered because I don't know what happened to Femi. Femi was supposed to be on the show and he was just here. And as soon as I pressed live, he disappeared. Oh, there he is. Let's get him back on. Here we go. We are actually live with Femi. I don't know what happened to him. What happened to you?
Phone calls do not work well with the stream, so I just had to text the person, hey, leave me alone for like an hour. So
yeah, I mean, this is Arsenal time now, so they can wait. They can wait unless it's like money calling, you know. But let's see. We have things to talk about. First and foremost, Brazil lost to Argentina 1-0 yesterday in CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers. And I think Brazil now sits sixth in the table, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good, bruv. And it was supposed to be exciting because all three Gabbies were going to be playing in that game, and they did. All three of them did play in the game. And I know I was excited until the game started, and the game didn't even start yet. And the players got out on the pitch, and the people in the stands were getting beat by the police. That was insane. It was insane, you guys. Seriously, I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm just like they're beating these people. They really are. And from that moment, Messi and his little gang went down to the locker room and said they weren't going to play. It was weird because I was like, does Messi actually have the ability to call a game? People were telling me that he did. And I was like, no, he doesn't. They're going to play this match. And they're probably happy that they did because they end up victorious. And I think Brazil lose their first World Cup qualifier at home or in Brazil to their arch nemesis. It couldn't get any worse. It really, really couldn't. Vinny Jr. out for 3 months. Neymar out for indefinitely, for a long period of time with his injury. And so it wasn't a great day for Brazil. But I think waking up this morning and seeing the nonsense that has ensued on the timeline around our players has made me feel as though some people really better check themselves quickly, fast, because we're going to talk about all three. Gabriel Magalhaes, Gabriel Martinelli, and Gabriel Jesus. All three of them have been catching hella slander. And what really irritates me is that Arsenal fans do not back our players. We tend to do this thing with our players where we just, when other fan bases and stuff start to kill them, we start to kill them as well. And I just don't really understand why that's the case. Let's talk about Gabriel Martinelli first, because I actually think that he was one of their better players in these last two games against Colombia and Argentina. Why do you feel it's the case that Gabriel Martinelli is he's so disrespected amongst other rivals, like rival fans? Why is it the case that somebody that scored 15 goals last season is not respected as one of the best wingers in the league and probably in Europe right now? Why is that the case?
You want the real answer, should be politically correct. The real answer is he plays for Arsenal. It's the truth. And we'll talk about it in the different points based off of the different player you have, but the goalpost moves depending on who you talk about. You talk about Martinelli, it's, oh yeah, he scores goals, but it doesn't look good. You go to Jesus and it's, oh, he looks good, but he's not scoring goals. You go to it doesn't matter what the person does. It's because he plays for Arsenal. And then you take the fact that he's not aesthetically Brazilian, if that makes sense. It's it's not like he's doing the ultra step overs and the rainbow and because people have this kind of preconceived notion that good football is supposed to look a certain way versus the end product of what they're trying to do. So if you add the fact that people really just hate Arsenal and you need a scapegoat, it's just very easy to say, hey, Arsenal players playing, they didn't do well. Let's blame him, even though there are other players on the pitch who did not play as good as these, including the players that they say are better than these players that they tend to kill. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, I do know. Arsenal.
I mean, it's not like Klopp didn't call him like the talent of the century. I mean, and this guy knows ball. Like, for me, Klopp is one of the best managers I've seen in my lifetime. Like, I rate him so highly, and I think his talent ID is up there with with the best, and he thinks Martinelli is that guy, So why is it that like people can't see he against Colombia, he was one of their better players. He scored the only goal that they had in this window. And the goal that he scored, he combined with Vinny Jr. Like, I'm sorry, if he's just dog Nelly and he can't do anything and he can't, play Brazilian football, why is it such that he can combine for a goal with Vinny Jr.? Surely dog Nelly, this guy that doesn't pick his head up, the guy that just dribbles with his head down, couldn't do that flick to Vinny Jr., couldn't do the pass and move. Like, he couldn't do that. And then he finished the move off. Like, what are we talking about? And then even against Argentina, he was one of their better players. Like, I am so sorry, but Rafinha was horrendous for both games. And so was Rodrigo. Let's keep it 100. Neither of those two players, one of whom plays for Real Madrid, the other whom plays for Barcelona, did absolutely nothing for 2 games. Yet and still, we're talking about Gabriel Martinelli. Why are we talking about Martinelli? First of all, if he's such a bad player, why are we wanting more from him? Like, I don't really understand, but he's still stepping up to the plate. So, like, who are we speaking about right now? Like, it just frustrates me so much to see, like, first they went from praising Martinelli to hating him. And I get that he missed a big chance. Like, he did miss a big chance where him and Gabriel Jesus combined, and he probably should be putting that away. But no one else did anything. They did nothing. Nada. Nothing. So I don't really understand it. I do understand it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't go around lying about rivals' players. I don't. If I think your players are good, I'm going to say it. Like, I really am. I'm going to be so real about it, because I don't want that same thing done to our players. But it just feels as though, like, this entire international break has been about how can we figure out a way to make this an Arsenal player's fault? How? Oh, Saka doesn't do this. Oh, Saliba didn't do that. Oh, Gabriel Magalhaes didn't do this. I'm sorry, Gabriel was not at fault for the goal yesterday. He was not. Andre didn't jump. Like, he didn't jump. Like, are we watching the same game? And really, Brazilian fans, if you're watching, I'm just going to be 100% clear with you guys. The reason why you guys are not good and you guys weren't good in this window is not because of the players that were there. It's because you guys don't have an answer beyond Neymar. Your whole game plan is give it to Neymar. Neymar is not there, you lose every game. And you will continue to lose every game without him. It's just that clear. And even when he's there, it's not a guarantee that you win anyway. Not. I was there when you guys lost to Croatia. Not a single Arsenal player was on that pitch. Not a single Arsenal player was on that pitch. Okay? So whether it's Thiago Silva back there, Marquinhos back there, Militao back there, you still lost. You still lost on the biggest stage. You did. So there you go. Any thoughts on that before we get on to Gabriel Jesus?
No, I'm just at a point where it's like my conclusion will be the same. All 3 of the plays we're going to say. I just know for a fact at the end of the day, it's like my conclusion will come back to this overarching theme is if they are all terrible, then don't struggle against us. I'm just going to keep saying that over and over again. If they're that bad, these players shouldn't score on you. It should be very easy to snuff these kids out. It should be very easy for you guys to score against these people. It should be very easy because, again, they're so overrated. They're so this, that, and the third. So, honestly speaking, like I'm used to it. I'm the toxic Arsenal positivity guy, but it's like it's just annoying that like there was this one girl who specifically said at first it was Saka, then it was Martinelli, now it's Jesus, who's it going to be next? And my response is whoever's playing. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know when other rival players are playing. I don't like. I just see their teams playing. If they win, they win. They lose, they lose. And then
I
whatever
don't pay
highlight I
attention to
see,
them like that.
who like
It's international break. I don't know what they did.
I don't know. It's just like I couldn't tell you. Like I couldn't tell you what they're doing. Truthfully speaking, I don't care. Truthfully, I just don't care. Like I don't think it's
Oh,
like
period. I don't care.
I just don't care. I just don't
Yeah,
care.
literally. So let's talk about Gabriel Jesus because that's why you guys are here, mostly. So listen. Gabriel, first of all, can we not be? Can, sometimes you got to use your thinking cap. Okay, you got to use the muscle between your ears sometimes and think to yourself, let me dig a little bit deeper here. Or am I just going to always believe what's put out there? Right. So I wake up and I look at my timeline and there's all these quotes from all these European like media outlets on Twitter saying that Gabriel Jesus said that scoring goals is not a strong point. That was it. That was all. That was the whole quote that they put out there. I'm like, listen, let me actually do a little digging and see what he actually said. Now, I don't understand Portuguese, but the thing that you guys also have to remember is that when you're translating things from other languages, sometimes it gets misinterpreted and pulled out of context. Gabriel Jesus did not say, I'm terrible at scoring goals, but that's what everybody is saying, that's what he meant that he was saying. That's not what he said, okay? He said this on his poor goal record for Brazil. There are things that bothered me a lot post 2018 World Cup cycle. I was younger. I had a different mind. Today, I am a more mature man, more educated, a family man. I understand football is a priority for me, and I know I need to be well, to do my best, especially in the Brazilian team. There are things that I don't control. I train, I look for, I try, I move, I help the team. The goal is inevitable. I believe it's not my strong point, but I score goals and I'm there to score goals. When I come back, it will happen. It's work. I work quietly. I'm not one to respond to criticism. I'm not to be happy for praise. I won't anymore. So basically just, obviously the Brazilian media does not like Gabriel Jesus and has not since that World Cup because he didn't score a goal, right? And it's been like a thing since then, right? And so he kind of said a couple of different things there, talking about how he's matured and he understands that his role in a team is way beyond just scoring goals. That's what I heard. The goals will come. They will be there, but that's not his strongest point to add to the team. I feel like that's how I interpreted it. And you know what, you guys? It's the truth. Like, it's the truth. Like, it's not that deep. Why are Arsenal fans capitulating over something that we know? Now, I think there's a difference here because, like, the way that I think about it is if we have a player in our team that has over 100 goals and 50 assists in English football, like, since he's been in England, that's how he has more than that. But he's not a player that we only rely upon for goals. That's not even something that, like, on a daily basis when we play, I'm not always like Gabriel Jesus has to score 2 or 3 goals. I'm thinking how many are we going to score as a team, right? And so you have a player that is openly admitting that he adds other things to the team, and goal scoring is probably not his strongest suit. But like I said, 110 goals in English football and over 50 assists. So you're getting goals and assists from a forward that also offers other things. And now as an adult, he understands his role is much bigger, which I think is important to get the best out of him. When you saw the quote and the response to the quote, what did you think? Because I feel like people are pretending as though we don't know this about Gabriel Jesus, that he's not like a 20-25 goal season striker. But we need a reason to capitulate about it, and that doesn't make sense to me.
It's the same ones that call him Jesus, the same ones that are complaining that he says, hey, this ain't I have a lot of qualities to me. This is not the one that I know that is the strongest. As like, I feel like a lot of people within football, when it comes to like looking at the game, I feel like they see it very linear. Striker, best skill you must have, shoot. Defender, best skill you must have, defend. And we're learning that we're in a day and age where with football, we're learning that it's a combination of skill sets that fit one another. So it's like, hey, yeah, you may have a defender that's not the greatest at defending, but he has other qualities, and you pair him with a center back that can do a bit more tracking back, that can do a little more covering of space, a little more with speed. And I feel like a lot of Arsenal fans specifically don't understand that concept, especially because it goes back to we haven't won things. So it's kind of like that's the overarching, like, we haven't won things. So I need to find reasons why we haven't won things. And when you start seeing that aspect, you start seeing like, okay, like even this conversation is like, oh, Jesus says he doesn't score goals. Like they read Jesus cannot score goals. That's what they read.
Yep, exactly.
Mind you, they're the ones celebrating his 3 Champions League goals that he scored directly after coming back. Like, there's the same ones that like watched Martinelli and Saka both have career years in goal contributions because they had a 9 that's constantly looking for them. And then when he's not playing, they're begging for him to play because they're saying that we're not as fluid without a player like him linking up with him. It's like it's equivalent of like eating your cake and then wondering where it went. It's to me, it's just it confuses me because it's like we constantly watch Arsenal be fluid. We enjoy Arsenal being fluid. We see other teams be very structured and like if we want Arsenal to become a team where everyone is feeding one player, and if that one player doesn't score, then the whole team's not scoring, I'm not mad at it. But this concept that like we bought a 9 that isn't a 9, in my head is like, I don't see it that way. I see a player that we got for what, 45, 50, that can play striker at a high level, but can also play left wing at a high level. That can also play right wing at a high level. And if Arteta really wants to be a little freaky with it, he can put him in the midfield because he has the qualities. So I'm just not really like, I think it's like part of me just likes having conversations with people, but like sometimes as Arsenal fans, I feel like we give into what rival fans say and what rival fans do. So we feel like we must justify a lot of the anger in situations that we feel like it must be one way. So all this to say, I love Jesus. Jesus is going to continue to get better. I can't wait for him to get a constant game time so people can be reminded how good of a player he makes us. So to the Arsenal fans complaining about the comment, I wish they read what he said directly after of the fact that he will constantly work it privately, and he's constantly going to try to get better, and he's constantly going to try to do what he does behind the scenes. So when people say, oh, that's a bad mentality, what about the second part he said then? What about him saying that he goes and he grinds quietly and he doesn't look for the praise? He wants to make sure it's the team first, and then whatever comes to me comes because the team is good. If you can't like that, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Truthfully, I don't.
Yeah.
So
some good comments here from like Chris. He says, translation, I'm not a penalty box striker. I'm a multi-purpose center forward. That's what I got from it. Basic self-awareness from Jesus. I mean, it's just really that simple. It's like, to me, it's just like, this is not a deep thing. Blaze says, Jess, I get what you're saying, but I expect Gabriel Jesus to score goals in important games like Champions League because of experience, which he is doing. I mean, it's not like he has. Like, what do you mean? He's actually, like, you guys, like, he has one of the best Champions League records right now, currently. Like, he does score goals in Champions League.
Like, it's per 90 apparently for goals and assists. Like, per 90 from 2000. Now he's in the top 5. He's in the top 5, like, all time.
Yeah,
well, all time
it's
from
just
like
it's weird to me. Like, he does, like, and then the thing is, it's like, okay, like, I don't want him coming out and saying it. Why? He came out and said, first of all, you guys are saying you don't like what he said because of the way that they clipped it up. But what he said in his entirety, you cannot have a problem with what he said. what he said, you actually cannot have an issue with. Like what I read you guys, that is the actual quote. It's the full thing. Him not telling the truth because it might be taken out of context is relieving fans of having common sense. And I think we need to be more responsible as fans and have more common sense than expect players not to tell the truth because we don't want rivals to pick up on it and banter us over it. Like, are we not strong enough to like just tell our friend like, well, I don't care what you have to say. I like Jesus. Is it that hard? Like, is that difficult? Like, I don't actually understand. Like, if anybody comes to me and says, oh, well, Gabriel Jesus said that goal scoring is not his strongest point, I'm going to say, yeah, that's probably true. So he shouldn't say it because it's going to get clipped up and you don't want to have backbone. Like, we are one of the weakest fan bases when it comes to backing our players. I'm so sorry. Like, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Anytime, like, people said Odegaard doesn't show up in big games, instead of Arsenal fans saying, well, yeah, he scored in this game, this game, and this game, and this game. Look at this performance. We turned around and shut our ass and said, oh, no, we need to get rid of him. How has life been without Odegaard, by the way? And how did you feel when you found out that he's been injured the whole season? Been playing with him. How did you feel? Because you just twerked for rivals. That's all you did. You turned your ass over and just went, oh, yeah, rivals. I'm sorry. Like, be fucking for real, y'all. Come on. This is so annoying to me. It really aggravates me because it's like, Jesus is one of the reasons why we were so good last season. And, you know, we pretend like we don't understand roles, false nine, adding other things, because rivals are saying that they think Jesus is trash.
I'm over it.
Like, what is this? Like, he's not supposed to tell the truth. He should not have to think about how we feel about what he's saying while he's telling the truth. Like, come on, let's be for real. Something that I find very interesting as well is like, I did look at, I was like, who do I actually think in the Premier League is a better goal scorer, striker, whatever, than, because we're talking about forwards, right? Like, I think people like are like, oh, well, if you have the number 9 on your back, you have to score 25 goals a season. But that's not actually true. It's what is your role in the team, period. Like, on period. Like, let's not act like Firmino didn't play in the league for years and not score more than like 15 goals a season, right? I think Salah, Haaland, Sterling, and Son are the only players that I can think of off the top of my head that are better goal scorers than Gabriel Jesus, factually, not based on what we project other players to do, but what players have already done in the Premier League so far. And, you know, if Kane was still here, obviously he'd be here, but he's not. That's a very small list. It's not a big list, you know, and half of those players are at least 2 or 3 years older than Gabriel Jesus. By the way, Gabriel Jesus is only 26 years old. Like, it's not like it's the end of his world. Like, he still has like 3 or 4 more years to add more to his goal tally. And at 26 years old, like I said, he has 110 goals and 49 assists in the like, not in the Premier League, but since he's been in England. You guys want to know how many Rashford has, who has been primarily United's goal scorer and is only tasked with scoring goals? He has 129 in 153 more appearances for Manchester United. 110 versus 129. A player that is only tasked to score goals versus a player that has 5 or 6 different roles in the team, only has 20 more goals and 153 more appearances. Hello.
And wasn't starting.
And they're the same age. Before somebody's like age, they're the same age. And Rashford has been starting for Manchester United the whole time. So there's a handful of guys that are probably better than Gabriel Jesus. There's a handful. There are some, factually, that are better goal scorers. But that's not many. And some of the guys that you guys think are better than him, they're not really scoring that many more goals. Okay? They're really not. You know, so let's keep it all the way 100, y'all. If you do a little bit of your research, you'll see that some of these comments are a little wild. They're a little wild. They're a little wild. Rashford doesn't have to press. He doesn't have to drop deep. He doesn't have to be creative. He doesn't have to do anything but score goals, and he only has 20 more goals than Gabriel Jesus and 153 more appearances for Manchester United as a starter. Let's be for real. Let's be for real. Let's be for real. Thoughts? And that's just what I found in 5 minutes.
the only thing I have to say about the Jesus thing in that regard is people just are they're just funny. It's just funny. Like I think, like, for instance, there was a group chat that I'm in right now, and obviously they throw, like, I have a bunch of United fans. They threw in the chat, and it's like, this is your number 9. My response was correct. Period. That was it. Correct. Yes. And what are we saying? And they then said, then why is Arsenal going for Osimhen? Why are they going for Tony? You guys are already trying to replace Jesus. I thought he was so good. And I was like, I know that people can't fathom Arsenal wanting more good players. I know people can't fathom Arsenal looking for different people to do different things. But it's like it is the concept of, like, Arsenal got it wrong because we decide we like versatile players. And then eventually, when we're at a good enough point, we can start getting specialists. Like, I don't think people see that. And I'm at a point where it's like, I will unapologetically root for my I would say that my team, because at the end of the day, it's my team. So I don't know. It is what it is, man, truthfully.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and people are like, well, Rashford is not a goal scorer and Gabriel Jesus is a striker. Do you guys not watch football? Rashford's role as a Manchester United player is to score goals. That's it. He's not asked to do anything else because he cannot do anything else. On period. He can't do anything else. Gabriel Jesus is a forward. I think the faster we accept that we play with 3 forwards up front, the better. It's not like Trossard is a striker. He's not. When he plays up there, he's not really a striker. He's just a forward. Like, I don't know why this is like a thing. It's not that deep. And I don't necessarily, I agree with you, feel like Arsenal wanted Vlahovic before they got Gabriel Jesus. Then they got Gabriel Jesus. Now they're looking back at a traditional number 9, and people are feeling like, oh, that means that Gabriel Jesus is finished at Arsenal. It doesn't. Look how many different types of profiles we have for the same position. Like, look, like, we want different types of options for different types of scenarios. And I don't necessarily feel like the introduction of Timber is the end of Zinchenko, or like a number 9 means that Gabriel Jesus is finished. Like, I just feel like we're a little, sometimes the way that we think about things are very like based on emotion and not really based on like real like thoughts. Like, it's strange. Like, Manchester City can have Alvarez and Haaland, but if we have a traditional number 9 in Jesus, it doesn't make any sense to us. Like, we can't fathom it. We don't get it. It's like Liverpool can win the league with Firmino and Mane and Salah, but like, we can't fathom it. It doesn't make sense. I just feel like emotions are always more important to our fan base than like facts. And we just never can like sit there and like just back our players, and like the numbers are there. There's not that many people like in the league right now that are better than Gabriel Jesus. And yeah, does he have limitations? Absolutely. But when we bought him from Manchester City, we knew what he was going to be like. We knew that. Like, I sat here and said, y'all, I don't think he's ever going to score 20 goals a season. I don't. But I don't expect him to, because he has other things anyway. There's very few players that score 25, 26 goals a season, 30 goals a season that offer anything other than that. The only player I can think of off the top of my head is Harry Kane, and he's probably top 3 best players on the planet. You see what I'm saying? So like, just because he's not Harry Kane doesn't mean he doesn't have value to our team, doesn't make us better and things like that. But we're so quick to throw our players away, and it's disappointing. It really is. Like, it truly is. I'm okay with rival fans saying what they're going to say, because like, they're losers. Like, who cares? Oh, and by the way, I said this on Twitter. I'll say it again. Like, as bad as Saka is and Jesus and Martinelli and Havertz and Zinchenko and Gabriel are, they're all trash. Y'all better not finish below us. That's like all of our starting 11. That's like 6 of our starting 11, 6 or 7 of our starting 11. You cannot finish below a team who has just bums in their team. You cannot, period. I'm so sorry. I cannot. Let's see what you guys have to say in the comments. Tons of comments here. I love it. T. Walter says, is it fair to say though that this comes from Twitter, and Twitter always will be filled with loud, shallow opinions. It's also on YouTube as well. Like it's whatever will get clicks, basically. But then Arsenal fans definitely fall into it. And they don't realize that the reason why they took that one clip was because it did exactly what they got the exact response that they expected to get, which was rivals and Arsenal fans turning on a player, saying that a player's crap. Chris says, I don't remember Bobby Firmino coming under this level of scrutiny when he scored 9-10 goals for Liverpool back in the day. Everyone praised him for his work, different rules for Jesus. Yeah, pretty much. Blaze says, I like Jesus, but I think it's easy target for our fan base. Some Arsenal fans hate our players. This is crazy. There's certain players on our team that people are like you can say anything about and nobody will pull you up on it. Tawanda says, Jesus is the reason why Odegaard, Saka, and Martinelli were top goal scorers. John P says, everything changed when Jesus and Saliba came into the team last season. I love the guy. And Zinchenko, I feel like we don't give him any credit, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, Zinchenko was like team of the season last season, but we want to throw him away? Crazy. Franklin says, Bobby Firmino was never the main striker, though. Jesus is not the main striker. Do we not realize at this stage that Saka and Martinelli are our main goal scorers? Do we not get that? Are we not there yet? Have we not realized this yet? Like, Saka and Martinelli, everything goes through them, is created through them, everything. They are our main goal scorers. Am I wrong about that? Am I wrong?
No, but I also think that like we've expanded past having a singular point. I feel like when we had Aubameyang, who again, and when I speak about Aubameyang, people think that I hate him. I don't hate him. I loved everything that he contributed to us, but he made us a very linear team. If you stop Aubameyang, you stopped Arsenal. That everyone knew it, especially when we were coming back off of the FA Cup win, and then we decided, hey, let's run back that system over and over again. And what did teams do? They just shut down that left-hand side, and we scored nothing. We weren't scoring anything. And now we went from that to not having a traditional number 9 and scored 88 goals within a season. That doesn't just magically happen. That doesn't just magically like, oh my God, like 88 goals and Jesus missed about 3 months of the season. Yeah, no, people talk, but it's baseless. It's baseless. Can't rate Jesus like that. He's doing okay though.
But the thing is like, I just feel like it's okay to say that. Like, I don't have a problem with anybody that wants a traditional number 9. That's not something that that's a personal preference. Like, if you would rather have a 20, 30 goal season striker in your team other than Gabriel Jesus, I can accept that as a personal preference. What I will say, though, is that doesn't mean that we have to lie about Gabriel Jesus and say that he doesn't score goals. He's not that great of a player. Like, I feel like what we do is we don't want this type of player, so then we decide to lie on the one that's there. Like, we'll say anything about Zinchenko, we'll say anything about Odegaard. You may want other types of players in there, but that doesn't mean you have to lie about the players that we have. Gabriel Jesus is a top player. He really, really is. I don't care what the Brazilian media says. I don't really care what rivals say. The facts are clear. Like, Gabriel Jesus is a top player. Is he ever going to be the best number 9 on the planet? No, he is not. Not in the traditional sense. But does he make Arsenal a much better side? Yeah, he really does. And so Arsenal probably do want to bring in another striker to give another option. I think that was always an inevitability. I don't think you go after Vlahovic and then get Gabriel Jesus and don't go out and still get that type of striker. I think Arsenal want both in the team. But I don't think we have to like shit on Jesus to get there. I really, really don't. Ocampo says he is class and a winner. Aman says, I swear Firmino scored like 9-10 goals when Liverpool won the Prem. He did. And the thing is I remember that there was like a lot of Liverpool fans. I remember them. They were fighting for their life on the timeline to back Firmino and all the work that he does for Liverpool or what he did for Liverpool. I remember it because I felt the same way. I always rated Firmino. I love him as a player. I think that front three is the best front three that we've seen in so long in the Prem. Like, they were phenomenal, but one didn't work without the other. Like, I think the only real maybe player that stood alone, maybe just separately, is probably Salah, but really that whole thing worked together. and you take one out, things didn't feel the same, right? And so I don't really understand why people don't understand roles and profiles and stuff. They can understand it when it comes to their team, but they can't understand it when it comes to another. And so I will, like, again, I will never disrespect like Firmino or anybody like that, because he's a great player. But to turn around, like especially Liverpool fans turn around and try to make it seem like Gabriel Jesus is not doing the exact same thing, it's ghetto. It really is. Thado says Firmino was a midfielder in Germany, but Jesus was known as a striker, but Jesus is okay. Yeah, but he still played in the number 9 position. So what's the difference? Like, as the person that's playing center forward, what we're saying basically is that we don't understand roles, right? So it shouldn't matter if Jesus came from Brazil and was a striker there. Shouldn't matter if Firmino came as a midfielder. What you guys are saying is if you're in that center forward position, you need to score 20 goals a season no matter what. So why would Firmino get a pass? I don't get that. Nabil says, I don't think Gabriel Jesus can be the main guy due to his injuries and inconsistency. I wasn't expecting him to score 25 goals, but I'm not surprised the club wants a different profile because things change. I mean, we wanted Vlahovic before we got Gabriel Jesus, right? So I don't necessarily feel like we bought Gabriel Jesus, now we want to like throw him away because we need another option. Like, is it not the case that Arsenal probably have always wanted both profiles? And they, because I don't understand why you get Gabriel Jesus if you always wanted the Vlahovic profile. You would have never got him, right? And so I think it could just be the case, you guys, that Arsenal want different types of players for different types of reasons. And getting a Vlahovic doesn't necessarily mean anything about Gabriel Jesus. If anybody knows Gabriel Jesus the most, it's Arteta. If he thought he was a bum, he wouldn't have got him. Period. He wouldn't have. So he knew what he was getting, and it was the right step for us to get to where we want to go. And we're always going to bring in this number 9. Always. It's just a matter of not if, but when. I don't think the two are connected really. Boy says Sterling must be producing main striker numbers for his season playing up front, false nine for City. Thing is, Sterling, I think Sterling is, he's going to end up being a Premier League legend. Looking at his numbers, like he is a phenomenal goal scorer, assister, blah, blah, blah. But, I think he's one of those that just is kind of like in a level above of Gabriel Jesus, right? And when we talk about Haaland, Salah, Sterling, Son, we're talking about players that are like of an elite level, that it's like of the 1%. I don't think Gabriel Jesus necessarily he doesn't necessarily dine at that same table, but is he at the table with Dominic Solanke and Dominic Calvert-Lewin? No. And that's the way that we speak about him. There's levels to this game. I will never sit here and say that Gabriel Jesus is the best number 9 you can get. But he's a fantastic player. Like, he really, really is, right? Yeah, that was for you. Oh, he's frozen. You guys, he's frozen. We'll keep going. Neil says, Jesus is above Sterling for me. Eat, Drink, and Talk Football says Jesus is a top 5 striker in the Prem. Boy says, is hearsay, but I'm hearing right now Sterling above Jesus. Raheem. The thing is like, you guys, when I looked at Sterling's numbers, like he really will go down as a Premier League legend on period. Like, he will. I think Sterling is weirdly underrated in some way. But do I feel like Sterling is like the leagues above Jesus? No, but I think there's a category of players that's like Salah, Son, unfortunately, Haaland, that are like in that elite category. But equally, those players are older, So yeah. Chris says, thought he was listening intently. So did I. He's gone again. He's gone. Here to there says Sterling's productivity is impossible to ignore. Exactly. Boy says he could be a Prem legend, no problem with that. But Jesus is a better footballer between the two. I think they're both outstanding, really. The thing is like, again, like, I don't care where Sterling is playing. I'm not about to sit here and act like I don't think that player is phenomenal. Like, because I really do think that Sterling is weirdly underrated for some reason. You back for real? You back? You
I'm
back?
here. I'm good.
You
Yeah, I'm
back?
sorry.
No problems, no problems. Here to there says Vlahovic also has a checkered injury history with persistent hamstring injuries. So let's talk about that as well, because people obviously want to talk about the Vlahovic rumors, because that is starting to become something that, I don't think we can really ignore. Because here's the thing is, I think Harry Symeou brought it up financially. The wages that Vlahovic will be on after this season, I think, will be too much for Juventus to be able to pay. And so they might want to move him on. And then also they want a player from us. They want Thomas Partey. And so, I don't think, and Arteta tends not to, like, if he really wants a player, he tends to go back. And there have been reports that Arsenal are interested in bringing him in. And now the in the knows are saying it. What are your feelings on bringing in somebody like Dusan Vlahovic, who hasn't really set the world alight at Juventus, but is the type of profile that people seem to be clamoring for?
I think it works. I think it would have to make sense. Like I'm not, I don't think we should go 70, 80, 90, 100. No, that ship has sailed. And I think it even works. The fact that like we allowed, like I would say one quote unquote, like allowed him to go, but it was just like, okay, we're not going to bid him more. And he said he didn't want to come. So which is fine. Cool. But now that like he's having these injury issues, drops your price a bit. You're not doing the greatest at Juventus right now, drops your price a bit. So if we can find a way that we can kind of leverage kind of him not being in the best situation right now, and we can grab him for kind of like a Black Friday type deal thing, then I'm not really. And again, I'm a very big believer of buying profiles you do not have. I'm just a big believer of it. So what Vlahovic would be the one, like out of all the strikers we have, he'd be the one that fits a certain mold of like, he has the height, he has the build. There was one specific play that against Newcastle where in Nketiah, I thought it was a pen, but it wasn't. But what really happened was it was just shoulder to shoulder and he just went flying. That's not happening with Vlahovic. That's just something that regardless of what happens, he's someone that has that physicality and what a striker like that would do will then give like Saka a bench option now, because now Jesus now is a right wing option, which is now perfect for us because that's something that we are also clamoring. So again, I think that's one of those 2-for-1 deals that a lot of Arsenal fans are also seeing. Like, okay, if we do get another striker, we do then get another option that can have that of Martinelli, Martinelli, whatever striker we get that is that presence, and then have someone like Jesus on the right wing. So I'm personally with it. I like it. But at the same time, if there's a chance to get Osimhen, if there's a 2% chance to get Osimhen, I think we should go for him. I think we should be patient. I think we should just go the season as is, keep it to the end of the season, and just ride it up until then we really just go guns blazing for Osimhen, because I'm Nigerian. I'm biased. I love the guy. I'm an Osimhen like fanatic. I love the kid. So I understand why people want Vlahovic, but if we can't get him cheap, go all in for Osimhen. All in.
Listen, I feel as though we spoke to Osimhen's agents. Charles Watt spoke about it. It was widely reported that we spoke to his agents in 2021 before we got Gabriel Jesus. I feel like if we spoke to his agent and we didn't move on it, then we might know that he may not want to come to Arsenal. I've said this multiple times that I think there are players that, like, not even from a footballing perspective, but just from like a preference perspective, that may not want to come to Arsenal. He's spoken very openly about being a Chelsea fan, liking Man United, his friends liking Man United. There just may not be an affinity, and for somebody that can choose any club in the world to go to, I don't necessarily feel like we should be surprised if certain players just don't want to come to Arsenal.
Which
So
is fine.
yeah, which is fine.
First
Um,
happens.
and I just when I say that there's certain players that I just can't see in an Arsenal kit, he's one of them. I just can't. I cannot see it. He looks like a Chelsea player to me. And I don't know what that means, but it just means something to me. So there's that. But in terms of Vlahovic, like, I do think people have to remember that, like, there's this whole rumor that he rejected us, and it really wasn't the player, it was his agent. His agent already had a deal brokered with Juventus, you know? Um, and the player is probably, like, frustrated that his manager or his agent did that because look at what's happened since. He stagnated. This is a player that scored like 20 something, like 21 goals at 7 assists or something like that at Fiorentina, and I think he's went backwards. I think his trajectory has stagnated, if not went down, because he went to a team that doesn't develop young players. Vlahovic is only like 23, and when he got to Juventus, he was like 21. So, um, oh yeah, yeah, you can leave it. Yeah, I got you. I got you. But yeah, like I just feel as though, like, if that's who Arteta really wants, as long as he
Yeah.
can develop him, that's fine. He wouldn't be my number one choice, but it's not up to me. It's not up to me. So, but he's definitely not playing at the peak of his powers. There's a question like the Machronicle is saying, like, oh great, Arsenal is going to try to rehab another career. We're past this. Let him rot. Get somebody else like anybody else. Do you think that it's a bad idea to go after somebody that potentially needs pick me up? Somebody that's not already like playing at the peak of their powers yet. Somebody that needs a little sprucing up.
No.
I asked you.
Oh no, it froze for a quarter of a second while I looked down. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Ask me one.
No, I was just asking, is it a bad idea to go after somebody that might need a little bit of like rehab, like Vlahovic? Like he went from Fiorentina to Juventus. He was kind of like the new best thing that everybody was talking about, and now nobody's talking about him because his career stagnated.
Yes. Do I think it's bad? Yes. Only because like I'm tired of injuries at the moment. Maybe if we haven't dealt with the past 12 months that we've dealt with at the moment, but like I can't stomach another wait a month, wait 3 weeks, wait 2 months. Wait, I can't anymore. Like I'm watching Man City and they have like what 3, 4 like injuries and two of them are like really major. Like we're not I'm not even looking at like everyone else anymore. I'm also looking just at them specifically. And it's like we have to be as healthy as them. We have to be as good as them, if not better. We have to be just as good defensively and attacking wise. So, and like I said, I just can't. If we're going to chalk up money to a new signing, I need him to be healthy at least the first 6 to 8 months. I don't care what you do after that, but at least the first 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Saksham says Vlahovic will score for fun in our team in an attacking team like Fiorentina. He was insane. And I think that's something to take into consideration is that Juventus are not very good and they're not like good at attacking. I don't know how to describe it, but they're not good. And he's playing for like an old school manager. We haven't been particularly attacking this season, or like our attack has not been as fluid or fruitful or whatever you want to call it. But we are, we have creative players in our team, and I think Odegaard has actually done his best work with an actual target man with him when he played with Isak at Real Sociedad. So it just might be the case that oh yeah, go ahead. I'll see you. Bye. Femi's going, you guys. He has work, real work. So you guys will just have me for the next like couple minutes. I hope that's okay. But Vlahovic is somebody that probably needs creative players around him. He's playing in a weird system that doesn't allow for like a lot of creativity. Now ours is kind of like that as well right now, but it might be cool to get somebody in there. Ocampo says the France coach was saying Saliba has no competition. I don't care what he says, to be honest. I don't know what this reverse psychology is, but if you allow Saliba to play more than one game here and there, he'll probably do well. I just don't really think that like he need like personally, I just feel like once he went to Arsenal and he signed a new deal, like they started liking him less. Like Saliba. You know, they liked him more when he was at Marseille. Now that he's at Arsenal, like he doesn't have all this competition. He didn't have competition at Marseille. First of all, who has competition in their club team? Be for real. Like, be serious for 5 seconds. Like, let's look for a second. Is Upamecano, is he struggling for his position with anybody? Not really. Like, he's a rotation of 3 and he most likely starts. Konate, not really. Like, if he was fit all the time, he would not be struggling for playing time at Liverpool because what's his name is brittle. What is his name? The older one. He's like been pushed to the side. So does he really have competition either? Varane is always broke down. That's the only reason why he doesn't start all the time for Manchester United. For the most part, if these players were not injured, they would not have competition for their spot. So like, really, competition at center back, like, is that like a real thing? I think for them, like, they just have figured out like they want to have Saliba to have to like work harder than other people to get into that team. F them. I don't care. I really don't care what Deschamps is saying. Like, this would not be the first player that we have for the French national team that has to do something special in order to be a part of that team because they're so good and this and that. Like, what center backs actually have like legitimate competition in their club teams for their spot? Like, come on. Like, I don't care. I really don't. Like, Saliba's that good. And if they just allow him to play more minutes instead of giving him like, you know, a game here when they don't care about the game, like, I don't know if they were still hungover from celebrating 14-0 against Gibraltar. So then they turned around and played like shit against Greece. That's just like, that first goal is not even on Saliba. I watched it. Lucas Hernandez is back there and he kicks the ball against a Greece player. It goes into the box. Saliba makes the block. And then it goes out to a player that's like not marked at all by any sort of midfielder. And he hits the ball of his life, the goal of his life right then. And it goes in the back of the net. That's not on Saliba, you know, like, and these partnerships that they have sometimes are there for years, you know, like Varane and Umtiti, and then it went from Kimpembe. And so they have these partnerships that last for long periods of time. When you bring like a 21, 22-year-old into that, and then they're playing with different players all the time, like you have to give them time to like settle in. I feel the same way about Gabriel. He's playing with Marquinhos, a player that's played the last decade with one person. And oh, by the way, the players that they have in front of them are not as good. You know, a peak Casemiro is better than Andre or Guimaraes. Yeah. So I don't really care what the French national team is effing saying right now. We've seen Saliba with our own 2 eyes. Yeah. So I don't really, just let him play and it'll be fine. Like, it's not that deep. Ocampo says we should sign Saliba replacement maybe to raise the level. Why? Like, center back competition is not really like that big of a thing. Like, I think you need some players that can take your position, but Saliba's he's not complete. Like, I don't think Arsenal need to go out there. Like, I would love us to go get Ousmane Diomande, not because Saliba needs competition, but if something were to happen to Saliba or Gabriel, we wouldn't have the same level of like athletic, fast, strong center back there. So I would like Diomande just for the simple fact of like depth, not necessarily like, oh, he needs competition to keep him fresh, because Saliba's playing out of his skin already for Arsenal. He hasn't really had the opportunity. Like, do you really think that Saliba is going to the French national team and walking around like he's the shit? Like, I don't think he's doing that. I think Deschamps has just picked him the fuck out. Like, Saliba's playing at he's playing at his highest level right now. Like, does he really need somebody to like push him? No, I don't think so. I think the thing is that Saliba's being coveted as one of the best center backs on the planet, and Deschamps wants him to suck his balls in order to get a spot in that team. Sorry, but I feel like that's what it is more than anything. John P says, did you read the hit job Oliver Holt wrote about Arteta blaming his comments on the refs for provoking violence against lower league refs? It's disgusting how they are treating Arteta. I did see that mail. had said that they were going to start their own campaign to combat abuse on the referees. How about they do their job right? How about you do your job right? If you do that, then we wouldn't be having those problems. Like Arteta is literally the poster child, like now on the bulletin board for the PGMOL as like the reason why they can't do their job because they're shivering in their boots because they're scared that if they make one mistake they'll be sacked. Most managers have said that they understand that there's human error and they accept that some mistakes have been made. What people are upset about now is that the gross negligence and the frequency in which these issues are happening they cannot be ignored. When it happens one every couple of games, you can stomach that. When it's happening every single weekend in the Premier League, it cannot be ignored. And so I am so sorry. How about you don't focus on managers on the sideline and how their antics or whatever? How about you stop focusing on time wasting and just get simple offsides right? How about that? And the thing is as well, is that when you say that you're bringing in VAR to make more decisions better or to make things like where you're getting less things wrong, whatever, you expect the amount of mistakes to go down, and they have not. So how about you do your job and you won't have to worry about it anymore? You're not being abused. You're being asked to do your job correctly. And in any line of work, if you're not doing your job correctly, you get fired. That's how the world works. But these referees feel like they should be able to make mistakes on a weekly basis and nothing happen. Like, come on. Let's be serious. Either way, like I said, Eddie Howe has 3 yellow cards so far this season. Arteta has 1, I think. So one of their favorites, their darlings, is getting yellow cards frequently. We're only a quarter through the season. He has 3 yellow cards. That's a yellow card every 3 games, essentially. 3.5 games. So why is Eddie Howe not the poster boy? Why is it Arteta? Not only that, most people agreed with Mikel Arteta in secret and decided that they wanted to fix things with the refereeing. So they can miss me with all of this "we've been abused" nonsense. Chris Fraser says they can be wrong all the time and still get to do their job. I need to find a job like that. Okay. Cal says, who cares? We don't care. We're okay with Saliba. They can go to hell. That's kind of how I feel about it too. Like him saying that he doesn't have competition. I'm just kind of I don't think Saliba should have to get on his knees for you. Saliba, I don't feel like he's in that team feeling like he's too good or doesn't need to compete for a spot. But when you put him next to players that he's never played before, those partnerships, they take time. And most of the times when Saliba plays in a game that doesn't matter. And so when you play in games that don't matter, sometimes the players around you act like it doesn't matter. And so they're not. I watched that game and I thought France were everybody. Up front was shit. Midfield was crap. And so Saliba being on the pitch, when things don't go right for France, what do you expect? Saliba's playing at the highest level for Arsenal and he's doing a damn good job. So I don't really care, what Deschamps is saying, okay? Nabil says, I don't think it's about competition, but quality backups. Company or Van Dijk didn't have competition, but quality backups. I didn't think Todibo was great last season, but I think he'd be great. Yeah, I think we need one more of a similar profile to Saliba and Gabriel just in case one of them gets injured. I agree with that. But I could understand more if Saliba was not playing to his best ability at Arsenal for Deschamps to say, well, he doesn't have any competition. So that's a reason why, Saliba's playing out of his skin right now. So it's kind of and I'm trying to think of somebody that actually has legitimate backups, to a legitimate competition in their position. That, I don't really feel like that's really a thing. I think he just is trying to figure out a reason why he's not playing Saliba. That isn't just, I don't want to play him. Just say you don't want to play him. Just say you don't want to play him. It cannot be that he doesn't have competition as club team. Surely your performance in the Premier League and the Champions League is more important than whether or not you have competition. That's not on Saliba. That's like Arsenal don't have anybody there, you know? So that's more of an Arsenal problem than a Saliba problem. Why is Saliba accountable for who his backup is? It's not on him. Raquel says Saliba should pretend to be injured and stay back at Colney. Chris Fraser says Deschamps will have no choice but to play Saliba in the near future. Clip it. I'll be there for it. He'll be France's best center back within 12 to 18 months. If he just lets him play, he'll do it. You know, it's like any other. I just feel like when you go through huge transitions or whatever, and you're bringing in new younger players into the fold, they're likely gonna need a minute to like get adapted to what you're doing. And yeah, playing with Arsenal is not the same as playing with France. Everything is different. The remit is different. International football is different. You have to get used to it. And really, I think a lot of our players are getting used to playing international football. That's just the truth. I think when you really think about it, this is the first time in a long time that a lot of our players have been consistently called up for their national team and expected to play a big part. Gabriel Martinelli, Saliba, Odegaard. He's been there for a while, but he's the captain. So, and he's a young captain as well, expected to like do everything because Holland never shows up for Norway international duty anyway. And so I think this is like the first time where like these players are getting used to doing those things, and like they're not like Saka and Declan that they've been in their national teams for a while now. You know, it's actually like when you really think about it, how long has Saka been a part of that setup? Like 3 years, almost 4 now. Declan's been there forever, you know, so it's going to take a minute. You know, I don't think it was smooth sailing like the first time that Saka got into the England team. In fact, I think people were calling for him to never be there again. And look now, you know, you just have to give players a chance to get adapted into the position that they're playing, especially when they're being put into into positions that like somebody has been there for like 10 years. You know, I think Gabriel has an impossible job on his hands, really, to be the guy after Thiago Silva. You know, and nobody wants to be the next number 9 because you're still being compared to Ronaldo. You know, Ocampo says if Saliba starts in the World Cup final, France win easy. Here to there says Deschamps will always have choice. France will have by far the best and most center back depth in the world, and he has won the World Cup. It's not like they're running out with Harry Maguire. And that's to me, that's fine. Like, I don't like, again, how Deschamps feels about Saliba will not impact how I feel about Saliba just because he doesn't want to play him and because he has all of these different center backs that he can choose from. I don't think Saliba's quality is dependent on how Deschamps feels about him. That's the truth. And to be honest, I feel that way about most international setups right now. I don't really think that it matters that much because we watch football with our eyes. We know who's good and who's not. And again, like it's not, you know, like Mustafi won a World Cup, you know, so you can be a part of a World Cup winning squad and still not be better than other players. So for me personally, I don't really care. Like him not starting for the French national team doesn't make me feel any less about Saliba because again, like you said, they have a quantity, they can win with anybody back there. They could put me back there and probably win games, right? But this idea that like he needs competition at Arsenal in order to be good enough to play for them is farcical for me. Boy says Dean did a master class on TalkSport. I don't know how he convinced himself to say all that. I didn't even feel like it was like I don't even feel like I needed to like respond to that because he actually sat there and tried to say like what Arteta did was disgraceful when Arsene always spoke out against the refs multiple times. He's actually said worse things about the refs than Arteta has ever said. And he never had like a problem with that. So whatever, is it who's saying it? Is it just you wanted to be anti for a minute? Like, I don't know, you know, who cares? He sounded stupid. John P says, do you think that Tommy's story has to do with him wanting a new contract or the club wanting Diamande? Good question. This is just dissolved into talking about whatever, but it's fine. I said it on the show the other day on the morning show that I just think it's agents, you know, when you have contract talks plus like reports around moving away at the same time. I feel like you can almost like 80% guarantee that it's just the agent trying to push shit. Like Bayern already know he's not leaving in January, so what's the point? You may have had, I think he did probably have interest in him in the summer. Arsenal told him no. They have interest in him now. Arsenal said no, but it's in the agent's best interest to put that out there to almost like pressure Arsenal into giving Tomiyasu a pay raise and a new contract, and it'll happen because Tomiyasu probably deserves it. Like Tomiyasu, when he's fit, is one of our best defenders, and he's one of our best like squad players. And like I don't want to diminish him into like a squad player. Like he's one of our best options. Like there's squad players, and then there's players that could start for us but just don't because of whatever reason. Tommy probably fits in that category of could probably start for Arsenal but just doesn't start for whatever reason. Right? Kind of like Trossard. Trossard could start for Arsenal but just doesn't because we know who our starting three are, right? And so Tomiyasu is important to keep around because, you're not going to really find that many players like Tomiyasu out on the market. In fact, he's like a unicorn. You're not going to find another defender that can play right back, left back, center back with both feet. Defensively really good distribution, technically sound. You're not going to really find that. You're not going to find it for 18 million. That's for sure. So it'll probably be cheaper to keep her, right? So give Tomiyasu some more money, right? And give him some more money. Give him a new deal. Keep him around because he's only 25. He can get better from here. But as Pep has shown, like it's important to have different types of defenders for different types of days. And like even early on in our season, we've seen how important it is to understand Zinchenko games and Tommy games. And as soon as Arteta started getting that right, I think we started being better. Tomiyasu plays away from home in Europe, and he also plays in tough games against the top six. Zinchenko plays at home against the lower level opposition. That's his bag, right? And so I think it's more agents plus some real interest from Bayern. I do think that Bayern were interested in him, but the agent is leaking that information because Tomiyasu wants a new deal and wants some more cash, which I feel like he deserves. 11 says, who makes more mistakes than Upamecano? Nobody. That's why I know it's bullshit, y'all. Like Upamecano is not like he's not that much better than he's not better than Saliba for real. So yeah. Here to there says fit Tommy is like Trossard, our 12th, 13th man. I agree. Ocampo says France defense includes Varane, Koundé, Konate, Upamecano, Saliba. It's in depth. Akal says if Deschamps has a better pool of center backs, then he doesn't need to call him to the national team. Philip says nobody is attacking referees. We're attacking VAR, who get to watch 20 replays and draw objective lines. Clearly, with video replay, we expect better referees. Otherwise, what's the point? Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, it's really not that deep. Like, just be better at your job instead of trying to have a campaign against Mikel Arteta. And you're just trying to shift blame. Like that's all it really is. It's, all the spotlight is on us. So let's shift it. Let's find a couple of journalists that don't really like Mikel Arteta, don't like Arsenal. They'll be happy to write this article, put it out there, get some people on our side, make sure that Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher are talking about it, and boom, nobody's thinking about us now. People are thinking about Mikel Arteta. All of this will come to a really bad head at some point because as this continues to be the story, people will be more and more fed up, and you'll get less people like Ange saying that we should just accept the decisions and more people speaking out because these are very expensive mistakes. Klopp said it. These are very expensive mistakes. This could cost coaches their jobs when it shouldn't cost them their jobs. It should cost you your job, So Gary O'Neill has spoken out about it. Nobody really cares because he doesn't manage a top six side, but he's somebody that at his time as a Wolves manager has probably seen, the effects of like not having good refereeing decisions go your, like, you know what I mean? He's probably been impacted the most. And those are very expensive mistakes because if Wolves were to go down, how much money would they lose? Right. And so I really think like is what's more expensive, getting rid of the referee or, you know, allowing a club to lose hundreds of thousands of pounds because they're not in the position that they probably should be in because that referee is not making the right decisions. Um, it's just that clear, you know. Macau says Tommy is our best natural defender. I kind of agree with that. I personally think Tomiyasu is our best defender. Um, and then it's like Saliba, and then it's like I do think Tomiyasu. Like if I had to put him or Saliba against probably like the better players in the league, I probably would just about say Tommy, you go out there and do it because I just think he does it. He's probably our best 1v1 defender. I think Saliba is probably better on the ball and physically can make up for maybe not being able to, you know what I mean? Like he has the physical capabilities where Tomiyasu, I think he genuinely is just a very, very good defender. And so for me, if I had to put him up against Salah, let's say, and I had to pick one player, I'd probably pick Tommy to defend him. And it's marginal. So I'm not saying Saliba's not a great defender. I think he is, but I do think that Tommy's our best natural defender. I agree. Carol says, I'm happy with Jesus has come out and said that. Now it's up to Mikel to do something about it. Do what? Do what? What did he say? Here's the thing. What did Jesus say yesterday that Mikel Arteta doesn't already know? Mikel Arteta knows Gabriel Jesus better than we do. So what did Gabriel Jesus say that Mikel Arteta needs to then do something about? I don't understand. What did he say that's so bad from him? Or go do something like what does he have to do something about? I'm confused because if anybody knows that Gabriel Jesus' best, strongest quality is probably not scoring goals, but he does other things for the team, it's probably the guy that bought him to do that exact thing. If Arteta wanted a goal scorer that's going to score 20 to 25 goals a season, he would not have bought Gabriel Jesus, you guys. Mikel Arteta is not dumb. He's not stupid. Like, he knows this player more than any of us do. He's seen him in training for like 5-6 seasons at one club, or at two clubs, at City and Arsenal. So what has Jesus said that any of us don't know? What was this new revelation? People are just mad that rivals are bantering and they can't stand up. It's just not that deep. It's not that deep. MM says rumor is that Vlahovic is a target we're looking at. Already spoke about that. But I will say that like if they want Thomas Partey and Thomas Partey wants to leave and he's willing to go there and Vlahovic, his wages are going to go up and so they want to get rid of him and Arsenal still want him. That is probably a deal that Arsenal should look at because we probably don't have a lot of money. Do I think that solves our midfield problem? No, it doesn't because we still need to figure out the midfield. Would I love a striker? Absolutely. Do I feel like Vlahovic should be the guy? I don't know, but I think that Arsenal tend to go back to people that they wanted before or profiles at least that they wanted before. So I do think that Vlahovic is somebody that we may be looking at. Will it happen? I don't know. You guys are funny. Ocampo says, I think we should blame the FA for not having the best camera angles in all stadiums so that VAR don't have to say that they didn't get the angle. BN Sports can have any angle. Why not the FA? I agree with this, but I think the reason why they don't have the angles is because they don't want the angles, you guys. Like I've said this for a while. I think that they love half of the excitement about the Premier League is the amount of bad decisions that they get and the fact that we can talk about those bad decisions for weeks on weeks on weeks. And so I think having a level of competency that you can't get to allows for these gaps in quality in the refereeing, which leads to bad decisions, which leads to Sky Sports, BN or BT, all these different media companies being able to speak about things for weeks on weeks on weeks instead of speaking about the football, which for a lot of games can be quite boring to talk about. So think about how much money they've probably made from just bad refereeing decisions and being able to talk about those. I think that if they want the drama I think they like the drama. It adds to the product that is the Premier League. And so this whole guise of wanting to be better at refereeing or get the decisions right is all phony baloney. VAR is also, for me, an entertainment. It's a vehicle of entertainment rather than getting decisions right. I think they like the referee going over to the screen and then, seeing the guy in the box, doing the lines, and it all adds to the drama of the Premier League. And so getting decisions wrong or having decisions be highly debated for weeks on weeks is something that I think that they want. Blaze says, Jess, you can rest. Don't waste your time to defend Gabriel Jesus. Our fan base will always hate Jesus and Zinchenko. Some Arsenal fans don't have composure to defend our players. Listen. I don't really think that I don't really understand the Jesus and Zinchenko hate. It feels forced to me. It feels more based on emotion than anything. And so to me, it just shows you can say that a player is not the best player ever and also recognize that they're also very, very good. And I think what happens is, if you don't like that Zinchenko is not the best defender, instead of saying you know what, he's really good at what he does on the ball, but defensively he has problems defending, whatever. You just say he's crap, get rid. And that's what's boring to me, because that's not true. UK Arsenal says, stop being a victim. Being a victim of what? Being a victim of what? What am I being a victim of? I've spoken out on multiple refereeing decisions that have went against other teams, not just Arsenal. As it's not about being a victim. It's about the standard of refereeing is not great. And everybody agreed that the standard of refereeing is not good when it wasn't about Arsenal. And it became about Arsenal, then the refereeing is fine. So I'm not being a victim. I expect Arsenal to do well and win games despite refereeing decisions. And for the most part, we have done. We have had injuries. We've had bad refereeing decisions go against us, and we still sit in a really good place in the table. So what am I being a victim of exactly? Because that just feels like a response to nothing. I haven't said that Arsenal are in the position that they are because referees are terrible or anything like that. The standard of refereeing is bad across the board. And I'll say that no matter who it is. So nobody's being a victim at all. CAA Amafia says, is Kai Havertz a fullback now? That's interesting. No, he is not. But he basically was playing midfield, for Germany. I think anybody that watched those games would say that in possession he was a midfielder, but he was doing, I think, more defending than Nagelsmann wanted him to do, because Germany are shit and they couldn't keep onto the ball. So the other teams were Turkey and Austria, both had lots of chances. They had a lot of the ball. They made, they were the better side in both games. And so I think Kai Havertz did a good job playing midfield for Germany, left center mid. That's where he played. I think he did good. Nostradamus says, let's be real. Our incoming attacker in January will be for an unhappy player on loan with an option to buy. We won't make any indispensable player. We won't be taking an indispensable player off a club in this coming window. Boy says there is still a segment of our fan base who simply want Arteta to fail, so all of his signings are crap, from Jesus to Kivior. Also, they are Nicolas Pepe fans. Nicolas Pepe fans can go away. UK Arsenal says the idea that VAR are targeting Arsenal. Did I say that? When did I say that they were targeting Arsenal? That the idea that VAR are targeting Arsenal. When did I say that? I said they make. Actually, I said in this exact thing, I said that Wolves have been done probably the worst from VAR. So, what are you talking about? Ocampo says, I feel sorry for Fabio Vieira. It was his chance to get a run since Odie was out, but now he has been suspended and the lad is so unlucky. Listen, spoke about this with Alex. If you guys haven't watched the podcast that I did with Alex, do that after this, because we did speak about Fabio Vieira. We spoke about Kivior, what should happen with them in January, but Listen, I really like Fabio Vieira a lot. You guys know I've always advocated for him. I really think that he's a really talented player that probably deserved more playing time than he's gotten. But to be suspended for 3 games in a time where that left center mid position is not locked down is not good, and it is a red flag to me that he didn't start against Burnley to begin with. You can tell me until you're blue in the face that like Jorginho is the leader and blah blah blah. We were playing against a Burnley side that's not necessarily very physical. We were at home and we were always going to win that game. So for Arteta not to trust him against Burnley, but he trusted the midfield of Havertz, Rice, and Emil Smith Rowe against Sheffield at home is a red flag to me that Mikel Arteta doesn't trust Fabio Vieira. And so if he does go on loan in January, I think it's kind of like the sign of a slower breakup, not necessarily for him to develop. I think at 23 years old, either the manager trusts you and wants you to be a part of the team, or he's going to loan you out to kind of get you away, and then we'll start to figure out a way to move you on. I think Arteta's pretty, I either trust you or I don't. With most players, and like whether you feel like they got enough playing time or not, it's very like boom. He's very like cut and dry like that. And so if he doesn't trust Vieira, then Vieira will be gone very quickly. And a loan to Marseille could be the beginning of that, which would be, I think, really disappointing. But at the same time, like, what can you do, Let's see. The Emirates faithful says the fact that we can't spend because of FFP because we spent 60 million on Havertz is a joke. Ocampo says just because you have one shot on target doesn't mean that they should rob you of points. Here's the thing about this. Arsenal have deserved to win every game that we've won this season. I think that, we've been a very good side this season. Probably not at our best, but we've been very good. But just because you probably weren't good enough to win doesn't mean that you deserve to lose. And that game was probably closer to a draw than it was to a Newcastle win. Because, by the way, Newcastle only had like 1 or 2 shots on goal, and they were at home. And Newcastle, statistically, are probably the best attacking side in the league. So at home against Arsenal, Newcastle only created like 1 or 2 clear-cut chances. And one of those came off of a very speculative goal that was VAR'd multiple times and blah, blah, blah. And so to say that just because Arsenal were not the better side, that means that it's okay for the VAR decision not to go against them, or it's okay for Bruno Guimaraes to knock Jorginho off the side of the head, those things are okay because we weren't the better side. Then every time that we play and we're better than another side, but rivals complain about the 1 or 2 chances or 1 or 2 decisions that go against the opposition, I don't want to hear anything because they weren't better than us, right? So the next time that Crystal Palace, like Eze, flops in the box, and I see rival fans talking about how Eze should have gotten a penalty, doesn't matter because they weren't the better side, right? So it could go both ways. There's so many times where Arsenal are clearly the better team, but rivals will sit there and say, yeah, but that was a penalty. It should have been a penalty. Well, it doesn't matter because that team wasn't better than us. Doesn't matter. If you deserved a penalty, you deserved a penalty despite who was better on the day. And that's a very dangerous precedent to set as well. Because let's take rivalries out of the equation. Again, these are very expensive mistakes. So most of the time when we play against those types of teams like Wolves or Sheffield or Burnley or whatever, you're basically saying that because they're not the better team, they shouldn't, like the VAR decisions, it doesn't matter if they go against them. It's a very dangerous precedent to set. I don't really understand who is the better side decides whether or not the VAR decision should go for them or against them. Doesn't make any sense. Very dangerous precedent to set. I think any fan that supports a team outside of the top 6 should slap anybody that says that across the face, because they have no clue how expensive those decisions are that go against them. And if you're saying that if you're not the better team, it's okay for things to go against you, because that's basically what you're saying, you deserve a slap. You really do, because that's stupid. Like, that makes no sense, you guys. Like, we didn't deserve to win that game, but we definitely didn't deserve to lose. And we went away from home to a very difficult place to go. And we limited them to nothing, basically. They limited us as well, but they won on a speculative goal. And I think we deserve better from the refereeing on that day. So, how about that? It's so stupid. John P says, I think Havertz hasn't been great, but I think the idea that Arteta likes about him is in-game tactical changes due to his versatile game. Havertz, look, he just needs to score a couple of goals. I think it's just that simple for him. I don't think we really need to overthink it. Why Arteta brought him in, I think it's mostly for his versatility. Maybe Arteta didn't feel like he could get the midfielder to the striker that he wanted, so he got a player that could kind of do both. I think, it's not a decision that I would have made, but it's a decision that he made. Havertz has not been terrible. He's been nowhere near as bad as people have made it out to be. And it's really embarrassing. I think how some Arsenal fans have decided that, like, they would rather him do bad so that they could be right than just see what's actually in front of you. We don't have to lie about him and say that he's been our best player or anything like that, but I think we can all say that he's been unlucky in certain circumstances and probably should do better in others, but he hasn't been the worst player in the world. But Arteta definitely signed him for his versatility. I think that that's pretty clear. He can play in midfield, he can play up front, whatever. And he offers you a different profile in terms of being able to win the ball in the air, hold the ball up, blah, blah, blah. He's playing at probably his lowest ebb. This is just not even 10% of the player that's in there. And I think as an Arsenal fan, if you're really an Arsenal fan, you're hoping that the guy gets it, and gets to a point where we're seeing more of what he does well. But I think a lot of Arsenal fans have decided that they just want to be right. So they're going to almost like wish bad on him. I'm getting that feeling of that right now with Kai Havertz. And he was not horrendous against Austria or Turkey. In fact, he was one of their better players in both games. He gave away the penalty, but that's like, let's be real, like that's not a penalty that anybody should be looking at and be like, oh, you're a bad defender. No. But I feel like Arsenal fans were almost like some of them were actually mad that he scored the goal. Like they were, oh my gosh, Arsenal fans are gassing up this goal that he scored against Turkey. Well, our player scored a goal. Like, why would we be upset by that? Like, you actually sound mad. That sounds so stupid to me. Like, Kai Havertz will always be a strange decision to me, but he's now an Arsenal player. So I have to put my own like feelings about the signing to the side and hope that this player works out, because 65 million cannot go down the drain. And I think some Arsenal fans are having a hard time with that. They're having a hard time separating their anger around the signing and Arteta, blah, 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 from what's most important right now, which is hoping that Kai Havertz does well. Period. You know? It's just there for me. CAI Mafia says, as a Chelsea fan, I think we owe you money for Kai Havertz still. What a scam. I mean, as bad as Kai Havertz and Saka and Gabriel Martinelli and all of our players are, and how much better your guys' players are, you sure are far down the table. So I wouldn't be laughing so much if I was you. Ronnie says, let's look for a left 8 in Jan. Kai should play as our striker. Jesus becoming something else. UK Arsenal says, I don't care what he does for Germany. I do, because it's games. Like, thing is as a fan, you love when they do well, but you discard when they don't do well in international duty. And so you may not care, but if he scores a goal and it helps him with his confidence, of course I care about that. That's what I'm hoping for. Nostradamus says Havertz could be covered for Odegaard, not like for like, but his best position on the pitch for him. Philip says Ramsdale needs to go in Jan. Fans at the Emirates must get off Raya's back. If we're going to win silverware, our clean sheets have drastically improved with him as a number one. If I speak on this, Ramsdale will probably play against Brentford. I think that's what I'm seeing. Because this is what I'm seeing now. Oh, that's because I did this, you guys. It's weird. Ramsdale will probably play because Raya can't play against Brentford, but I don't think anything that he does is not going to help him keep that spot, because Raya's our number one, and people are really like, it's crazy. Like, people are not accepting it. Like, it's there, and like it's like, oh well, our clean sheets have improved since he's been there, but it cannot have been about him at all. Yeah, but probably is because Raya's back there. I think Ryan has been good. I don't think he's been like as good as we have wanted him to be, but I think people overreacted massively to the first couple of games. I mean, people were reacting as though he had given away goals when he hadn't. So because Julian Alvarez had, blocked that ball, that they were treating that as if the ball had went in the back of the net, and it didn't. And Raya's been fine, if not good. So I look forward to see how much better he will get once the team, the fans at the Emirates get off his back and just allow him to do his job. And once Ramsdale leaves, because I feel like that's an inevitability. I told you guys from the beginning that I did not believe that this was a two number one situation. I always felt like this was a slow breakup and it might happen faster than we probably imagine. He will be agitating to leave because, I mean, even seeing people write articles about how Ramsdale's not even the number 2, he's the number 3. And we've seen what happened with Leno. The minute that he wasn't starting for Arsenal, he was not even in the German squad. That will happen to Ramsdale. So probably our best opportunity to recoup some money for the January transfer window is probably to sell Ramsdale. And I spoke about this with Sean, is we might have to get comfortable with the idea of selling him to a Premier League team. That's the truth. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at with that. Raya's the number 1. We've gotten better as a defensive unit with him there, despite the mistakes that he's made. The sooner we accept it and respect him and back him the way that we've backed other players, the better. And Ramsdale, the sooner that he leaves, the better things will probably be, because we won't have this cloud over our heads. Have I loved the way that this has happened? Have I felt like it's been a little bit harsh and a little bit messy? Absolutely. But it is what it is at this stage. So, the stats say that Raya is better. Our defensive record is better with him there. So even though Arsenal fans are emotional about it, I feel like it's a very unemotional thing. Ramsdale's the number 2 and Raya's the number 1. Ocampo says, I used to pray for squad depth like this for goalkeepers. says, Raya, clear number 1. Only thing is his height, but composed. Ramsdale sale incoming. Boy says, Arteta will never muster up the stones to start Hein. Fair enough. UK Arsenal says, you guys are talking to each other. Here to there says Ryan needs to improve. Ramsdale needs to leave, or we need to get 2 new goalkeepers in the summer. Let's let Raya cook a little bit. He does need to improve, but equally, I feel like he's been put in a very impossible situation, Raya. And I don't know, if I'm at the Emirates and I've finally gotten my dream move, and the fans in the stands fucking hate me because I'm in the team above somebody that they like because of his spirit and his personality, not necessarily because of his goalkeeping abilities. I'd probably be shitting bricks as well. It's the first time in my career we're playing against Spurs and Chelsea and Man City have to win games, but nobody is backing me. Yeah, I'd probably be shitting as well. So, but ever since, he's been playing a lot better now, I think. He made a really good save against Burnley. And again, the job for a goalkeeper right now is be good on the ball. And the one chance that teams get, you have to stop it. That's kind of where we're at right now. I just think Ramsdale kind of, the sooner that that's figured out, the better. That's the sooner, the better. That's kind of where we're at with that. D'Angelo says what he needs to improve on, though. I just think his composure in the bigger matches. I think his composure against the bigger games hasn't been up to the standard that I feel like we would want. But I think some of the narrative around playing the ball out from the back has been overstated by some Arsenal fans. They've been totally dramatic about it. He has been better on the ball than Ramsdale has, even with the mistakes that he's made. So it's just in the big games, now that he's gotten some over, and behind him, he can be more composed, I think in those situations. That's it. It's just the composure thing. Boy says Arteta doesn't get sacked for Arsenal even if he doesn't win anything this season. Well, I think basically we're in a situation with Arteta where I do think that he'll be able to go trophyless and not get sacked. Klopp went 5 seasons without a trophy. Nobody said anything really, but he won the biggest things when it mattered, right? I think Arteta needs a trophy, just to kind of like quiet down the noise a little bit. I don't think it's like depending on how you finish, like if you finish a point behind Manchester City and you get to the final of a Champions League, like a Champions League final, nobody's going to sack you for that. But if you finish 4th and you go out of the round of 16, then we have something to talk about, right? So it's all about context, I think. I don't think you can sack a manager for finishing 1 point off top, like the top, or getting to a final and losing that against a better side. But you have to start asking questions if he's not near that, So that's why I think context is key here, but he does need to start to win things for sure. Ronnie Ron says we should wait until the season is over to avoid wrong signings for once. D'Angelo Anderson says Arteta's doing good. Fans need to cool. UK Arsenal says why should we not sack him? Oh, you guys are talking about sacking. Ocampo says there's context to it. If he falls off and finish 7th, then that's a disaster. I do think context matters. I don't know. I think context does matter. I think in any circumstance, context does matter because it cannot just be if he doesn't win the Champions League or the Premier League this season, he has to go. That just doesn't feel like a normal thing to ask. It's not something that even the best teams say. Like, I don't think that that's something that outside of Manchester City people say, like, you have to go if you don't win these 2. They will give Arteta more time. It depends on where we finish and how close we were. We've already went out of the Carabao Cup. If you go out of the FA Cup really quickly or embarrassingly, then, but if you get to if you lose to a better team or you go out of the Champions League to a better side, can you sack him for that? If Manchester City win the Premier League again, but it's only by a point, can you sack him for that? I mean, I don't know. You guys let me know. Nostradamus says Ramsdale may have far more Prem experience to Raya, yet Raya is entering his prime. Would loaning Ramsdale with no option to buy to a Premier League be a solution? I don't think so. I think we're in a position of I think the Arsenal would love to keep Ramsdale in an ideal scenario because that works for us. You have 2 really good goalkeepers. I think idealistically, Arsenal wanted Leno and Emi Martinez. It just doesn't work out that way. I think Ramsdale will want to have his future set in stone sooner rather than later. I don't think he's going to want to do some sort of loan with an option. And I don't think any club would want that either because what if Arsenal just decide not to sell him? So I think this is a sell situation, not if, but when. That would be an idealistic scenario that really suits Arsenal, but it doesn't necessarily suit anybody else. I don't think it suits Ramsdale to go on a loan with an option to a club that he's not going to stay at, And I think Arsenal just genuinely want Ryan to be their number 1. And a goalkeeper, he's 27, 28. Like, that's like the beginning of a goalkeeper's prime. Right? So it's not like Ryan needs to go by the time he's 30. It's not the same as a field position. In fact, he could get better from here. So for the next 3, 4 seasons, 5, 6 seasons, they probably want Raya to be the number 1. So I think it's best for Ramsdale to find somewhere to be permanently where he can compromise on the way that he wants to play out from the back and not concentrate while he's out there on the pitch. Ocampo says winning involves a lot. Why didn't Ancelotti not win at Everton? It's not only the manager, but players, recruitment staff, and board decisions. Here to there says, no, Ramsdale has to go ASAP. We won't see the best from Raya probably until it's settled. Boy says, oh yeah, you guys are talking to each other. That's fair. Blaze says, why won't it pop up? Oh, it will be better Arteta to win trophies this season. Imagine he won't win something this season. Some Arsenal fans will have a meltdown. When are they not? When are they not? But I understand that. I think because of it's because of how last season went down. If like let me put it this way. If last season we finished in the same position that we finished last season, but we were behind Manchester City the entire time, nobody would care. We would figure our expectations of this season, I feel like, would be the exact same. I think the way that last season happened, the pressure has actually increased by a lot more than it maybe should have, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. You know, we were just hoping to get into the top 4. We ended up leading the Premier League for like 30 game weeks or more, and then we ended up really capitulating at the end. So now they're like, you have to win this shit or get out, right? And so I think Arteta should want to, like, I know he wants to win, but I think winning something now this season would give us the ability to kind of like reset a little bit and then continue. Because everything is sped up a little bit more now, it's like you have to win now. And the disappointment of last season will always be there. So I think he does need to win something this season. I'm not saying that he doesn't, but the context in which he doesn't is super important. Some Arsenal fans they've been waiting for this moment anyway. They never wanted Arteta, and since he's been here, they've never given him a chance. So last season, for like the entire season, they had to be quiet. Then when we bottled the league, then they became loud again, and now they're the most popular. They're getting the most likes, clicks, shares, followers now, and so they want to continue that on. So there will just be a section of the fan base that are just happy that we're not winning so that they can continue to pay their bills. But there will also be another subsection that's just like, you know what? Why don't we just get another manager in? What managers would be available to us that 100% win us silverware? I don't think that list is as big as people think it is, but that's also Edu's job, so it's a slippery slope that we're on right now. I think we could end the season and be totally happy about where we are, or we could be in complete meltdown. Slippery slope, slippery slope. D'Angelo says, tell them Ocampo and write for the project. Boy says, winning is more important to shut up the Arteta outers in the fan base than it is to actually win something for the club standing. I agree with that. The Emirates faithful says, 4th-year project is over this season, so what will the new project be called? There's no the project is not like over. Like I feel like people got really upset about the project, and like I don't know if you guys realize this, but like every single club has a like 5-year plan. Every business has like a 5-year plan. You just do. Like it's just that Arsenal called it a project and we're a little bit more open about it. And then people decided that it was like some weird thing. But Chelsea fans are talking about project now. Man United fans talk about project now. Everybody has a project. And I feel like Arsenal fans feel like because rivals bantered us about it, that it's like this evil thing. Arsenal have a plan for how they want to get to where they want to get to. Whether it's on our timeline is, it's not always on our timeline. Arsenal know how long it's going to take or how long I think they want to build something sustainable that's going to sustain for the next, like beyond the 5 years, it's going to sustain for the next 10. So they don't want to build something that's just going to win us something for one season and then have to be ripped apart and start over, which is what a lot of Arsenal fans want now. They want to rip it up because it hasn't happened as quickly as they wanted it to. And so they want it gone so that they can just win things like the way Chelsea won things for the 10 years prior. But that doesn't really work anymore. We know that you have to have like a long-term thing, stability. You have to have ways of doing things. It takes a while, especially for a club that was in a shambles when Arteta came in before. So I don't think project is like this bad word. I don't think it's something that Arsenal are doing that they're putting in front of their club to, put a blindfold over them so they just accept mediocrity, because every single club has that. They just do. And Arsenal's I think also Arsenal's took a little bit longer to get off the ground anyway, because of the amount of bad business that we did prior to it, before it started, and also because of the pandemic. I think a lot of people forget about where we were when the project started versus where it is now. If you started the project now, from where we are now, you restarted, it wouldn't take as long. You have better players there. You don't have these big contracts that you have to try to get rid of. And oh, by the way, you don't have a global pandemic that's making it difficult for people to spend money. So I think, yeah, it has taken longer than people have wanted it to. And other projects have seemed like they've gone faster, but have they? Because they really haven't finished anywhere. They haven't really won anything. So I think we're in like a fine, like the balance right now, right? Where you want to win something to quiet people down because the discontent is definitely starting to grow. Equally, I don't think Arsenal have done much wrong right now to say that the project is like failing, which people are making it seem like it's failing, which it's not. It's just kind of like in that, we're not really building as much as we are now, and people expect trophies, but it's not that easy to win trophies either, not with Manchester City around. So again, context is always key. I don't think people have context. I don't think project, process, any of those things are bad words. I don't think Arsenal are trying to pull the wool over. I don't think we've built a side that's not like Arsenal are not built like not building a side to win things. But equally, it's hard to win shit. It's not that easy. It's not just, oh, fourth year, win some shit. Like, it's not that easy, Boy says, no, Chelsea weren't forced into a project. Your new owner just likes youth projects, and he no doubt thought Wenger made tall work of it. Acal says, don't think Newcastle can hold on to continuing participation in the Champions League. The thing about like, oh, Newcastle's project is so like, oh, look at Ange, look at Eddie, look at this. It's not really that hard to figure out why it's taken Manchester United and Arsenal longer to rebuild than other teams, because they haven't had to get rid of big contracts. They don't have big egos, and they don't have any expectations. Those things are so much, they make the project so much bigger than people think. So just because Newcastle with no big contracts, no nothing, could implement their style quickly and shoot up the table, it doesn't really have anything to do with Arsenal, because they didn't start in the same position as Arsenal. Like Arsenal, as you don't have to be in a relegation position to be in a really bad position. Financially, I don't think people remember how bad off we were. And we don't have Saudi owners. So things are just different for us. Ange being able to put a style together. Well, of course he was able to put a style together really quickly. They bought players for a possession-based team and gave that team to Conte and Jose. So as soon as they gave that team to a manager that wants to play good football, of course it clicked together. Arteta got a group of players that were just like, I don't even know what it was, so of course it took like 1 year extra than it probably should have. But people just remove all the context from everything and saying, oh, well, look at Real Madrid, Barcelona, that shit's not the same as the Premier League. The Premier League is so much more competitive. It's just a different beast. So don't talk to me about Real Madrid. Real Madrid are not even in the same league as us. Like, it's not even the same thing. Nostradamus says, I'm still finding it hard to swallow why we sold Xhaka. We sold Xhaka because he wanted to go. He said it in multiple interviews. He wasn't forced out. Arsenal did not want him. He wanted to go, and that's why we sold him. It's just that simple. Adebayi says, thank you, Jesus, for reiterating your concern as a striker. You have said it several times that you're not a natural striker. Pep listened to you and bought Haaland and Alvarez, but Arteta is not. We are going to buy a striker, you guys. Fucking relax. It's not like Pep had Jesus and then just like it took a while to get Haaland, like relax, you guys. Like, we're going to get a traditional striker, but this idea that he's like Jesus exposed himself and now Arteta needs to listen. Arteta knows what kind of players he has. Like, you guys, be real for like 5 seconds. The Emirates faithful says Conte and Mourinho couldn't win anything with Tottenham, and don't say they fired him before that final. That's a Tottenham problem. Acal says, for all that praises Klopp and Liverpool get, they've won the EPL once in 7 years during COVID times. They won the EPL and the Champions League, and they went 5 years trophyless. So out of 8 years that Klopp has been manager of Liverpool, he's went trophyless 5 of those. So I think that adds some perspective. Now, I think Klopp is brilliant, but again, when you're competing against a machine like Manchester City, you can't just say win the Premier League or go. Like, it's just not that simple. Acampo says, Jess, do you believe the Emery Aston Villa hype? Yeah, I think they're actually a really good team. I think Emery's done a good job. I think he's done a good job at a team that fits him. I don't think Emery could go to, like, I don't think he works at an Arsenal or, you know, a team with the type of expectations. Like, the expectations need to be low so that you can, for Emery, the expectations need to be low so that you can, so you can overachieve. And then that's kind of like his formula, to have a team that's kind of average and then overachieve. And then it's great. You know, if the expectation is to do anything greater than that, then that's where he starts to struggle. Like, if Aston Villa ever get to a point where the expectation is to win the Premier League, win the Champions League, I think that's where his, you know, his experience kind of ends, right? Because he, you know, PSG take that out like a little bit because his PSG. At Arsenal, it just wasn't good enough to do what he did, right? And he won the Europa League with like everybody but us. You know, is more difficult. It's more difficult to win when you don't have like these players that are just like happy to be there. You know, he had like players for him at Sevilla and at Villarreal that were just like happy to be in the room, where we had a bunch of guys that thought that they were better than what they were, or they thought they were too good for the shit. And so I think he found it difficult to motivate that team, which is why you end up having to play with young players, because young players are just happy to be in the room, where he couldn't motivate an Aubameyang, an Ozil, Lacazette, because these guys were still thinking that they were something better than what they were, or they're too good to be at this Arsenal or whatever, you know. So he's really doing a good job with what he has right now. Do I think that they're going to finish in the top 4 or anything like that? No, but I think he's doing a really good job. I do. I don't want to say that, you know, he's not doing a good job, because he is. Boy says, yes, the league very easily can afford to relegate them. EO says, the entitlement this fan base has is really laughable. You'd think that we were the best team from the world. You should get 114 points, win all cups. Astra Dooley says, people really thinking Mikel didn't know what he was buying with Gabriel Jesus. The man's knowing him for years. Exactly. He's not being exposed, you know, so it's just, he's not being exposed to anything new. He understands what, and Gabriel Jesus is just showing that he understands what type of player that he is. And he's just not going to throw his toys out because, you know, he's not Ronaldo and people expect him to be Ronaldo. You know what I mean? I actually thought what he said was just like a normal thing and people blew it up. So yeah, UK Arsenal says, Jess, or she knows when it comes to Unai Emery, you have no idea what you're talking about. Stop it. What have I said wrong? What have I said untrue about Unai Emery? With Sevilla and with Villarreal, he had players that were just happy to be in the room, you know, but when he went to bigger clubs, he wasn't able to do what was required at those clubs based on his experience. Remember, Unai Emery has like 20 years of experience. So they would obviously expect him to get things over the line with the players that he had, because the job was always to get into Champions League. He couldn't do it with Arsenal. Is that not true, or am I making that up? You know, we know, like redoing the Unai Emery thing, and like people, like I feel like there's like a starter kit for like High Standards FC. It hate Saka, love Pepe, hate Arteta, love Unai. You know, hate all of our current goalkeepers, stan Emi Martinez. It's like the same things that all of you guys have. And like, are you not tired of still standing Pepe in 2023 to try to revise history on Unai Emery in 2023? Just accept that he's better at smaller clubs. Like, it's just that serious. He was never the right appointment. Like, let's be real. All right, you guys. It's been 2 hours. We've talked about everything under the sun. For Patreon, for patrons, the preview will come out on Friday. Tomorrow there will be nothing because it is Turkey Day here in the US. Sorry if that offends any of you guys, but I am American, so I will be partaking in Thanksgiving. But I really enjoyed the show. Love you guys so much. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel on your way out. get into the comment section. If you guys are just joining, let me know what you guys thought about all the different things that we spoke about on today. And I'll see you guys on Friday. Bye, guys.